Hello and welcome to News9 Live. This is a special broadcast and our focus is on Tamil Nadu. So therefore, vanakkam to all of you. The story is something like this and we are here amongst colleagues and friends to discuss what exactly happened. The story is about Badri Seshadri, who's a 58-year-old founder of a Tamil publishing house, which is called Kirikku Padipagan. He was arrested by the police from his house early this morning at 5 a.m. in Chennai. The arrest followed after his alleged remark against the judiciary in an interview on a YouTube channel. The arrest was made following a complaint from a lawyer whose name happens to be a Kaviyarasu, who is a resident of Kunnam, who claimed that he was extremely disturbed by Sheshadri's views on the judiciary during his interview, which was conducted on 22nd of July. Now, in the interview to the YouTube channel, Badri Seshadri, referring to the violence in Manipur, wondered aloud whether it was prudent to approach the courts in the first place. He said, and I quote him, "The court is acting without reason. I'm not sure whether the judges themselves have knowledge about the issues among the locals and the ground situation." Close quote. He also asked if the CJI would dare to stand in Manipur wielding a gun. Now, the police has booked Badri Seshadri under IPC sections 153, which is provocation with an intent to cause riot, 153A, 153(1)A, I beg your pardon, which is promoting enmity between groups through words, 505, which is causing fear and alarm in public. Tamil Nadu BJP President K. Annamalai, who is on his way to a Padayatra, tweeted in support of the arrested publisher Badri and said that I condemn the state government for crushing the voice of the common man. He also tweeted further and he said that this corrupt TMK government is relying only on arrest without power to address the views of the common man. Is the Tamil Nadu police job only to enforce the revenge measure? And joining me on the broadcast right now are my colleagues, the legal editor, who is, of course, Ashok Babria, who's joining me, and my senior colleague from TV9 Kannada, Bhaskar Hegde. A very, very warm welcome to both of you. So what, our intent is to understand what really transpired. So let me first go to Ashok, you. So the Twitter has exploded, Ashok. I mean, there are lots of opinions which are floating around. But first, let's try and understand what really went on. You just heard me tell you the story of Badri Seshadri, as it were. And just for the viewers, think that why is it that he was picked up or arrested this morning from his home in Chennai? Ashok.
Well, just like you, it also confounds me and confuses me that why Badri Seshadri has been picked up by the Tamil Nadu police. Now, from what the media report suggests is that there was a complaint which was lodged against him under sections 153, 153A and 505 of the Indian Penal Code. Now, of these offences, of these three offences, the problematic offences are 153A and 505, which primarily deal with hate speech. Now, this is where the problem lies. The problem here was that a lawyer, probably who must have seen this social media broadcast which was played out on YouTube, where Mr. Badri Seshadri put out some comments, his opinion on the issue in Manipur. Now, Mr. Seshadri, while airing his opinion, did say how the situation was playing out in Manipur, and he was also critical in his opinion of the role of the Supreme Court of India and more so of the Chief Justice of India. Now, these are the facts of the case before us. Now, now the question that arises for consideration of the courts, the policemen, and the common people like you and me is that from what aspect is Mr. Seshadri's statement hate speech? From what angle does what Mr. Badri Seshadri say amounts to promoting enmity between two groups? From what angle is the Chief Justice of India or the dignity of the Supreme Court of India denuded or lowered
Hmm.
by his statements? Now, these are
Right.
the questions which will have to be answered, and maybe I'll, during the course of this discussion, I'll talk to you about a similar case of Meghalaya, where the editor of Shillong Times, Patricia Mukim, was booked on similar kind of charges, but that we leave it for a later part of the discussion.
All right, and so therefore, let me now go to Bhaskar Hegde. Bhaskar, how do you look at it? I mean, considering that we are only talking about the case, as it were, as to what, how, why, where we know it happened in Chennai, what do you make of this particular case, Bhaskar?
Sudha, I think Ashok made a very interesting point about the sections and the interpretations of the sections of hate speech. I would like to expand this discussion a little bit. And I would like to say, probably this is not something that I, you, or Ashok would like to speak in the sense that particular words he used. That said, but I think it looks like it's improper and of course in bad taste. But that question, basic question arises as Ashok raised is whether it tantamounts to hate speech or not. My worry is here, based on a complaint, can police pick up a person and in the wee of our in the middle of night or whatever early morning, a journalist. Because when I checked the background of this gentleman, he has worked a quite long time in the media. It is found in Click Info, and he's starting his own organization and writing science in Tamil and English. And
Yes.
there is nothing like which you can see or you can say trace some kind of bad things in his past. That's the first thing we have to see. Number two, the very important thing which I think Ashok would comment later, if something happens or if I make a comment, for instance, if I make a comment against a judge,
All right.
someone has to go to court, or sorry, someone has to go to approach the Attorney General of India, and then Attorney General of India has to concur and approve. Yes, Bhaskar Hegde has clearly violated the law, and he should be defamatory against the judiciary, and the cases should be filed. And then,
Right.
according to the course of law, will take course. I think here in this case, based on one complaint, Tamil Nadu police arresting a person, it looks like I think prima facie they have crossed the line. This is what I feel.
All right. And Ashok, like Bhaskar put it very well, that we are here because we really do not understand legalese like you do. And one has to be very cautious about it because, after all, the more details of the further details of the case will only emerge subsequently. I'm presuming Monday, considering we have already slipped into the weekend, as it were. But my question to you, Ashok, before you, of course, also focus on Patricia Mukim's case, is that could it be? Could it be? I mean, I'm wondering because several reports are floating around on the internet. The words they say, they attribute that Badri Seshadri perhaps used disparaging words against the judiciary as a whole and the CGI, as it were, because allegedly, apparently, he said that will he stand there? Will the CGI dare to stand in Manipur wielding a gun? Let me also add a rider. The interview was in Tamil, and most often the nuances are lost in translation. So I'm putting that word allegedly, saying something to the effect that would the CGI dare to stand in Manipur wielding a gun? Do you think all these things, when put together, does that merit a man being picked up at 5 a.m. this morning and perhaps shoved into jail? Ashok.
Well, Sudha, personally, my opinion is that this is clearly a misuse of law by the Tamil Nadu police. This is my personal opinion. And when I say this is a misuse of the powers that have been given to the cops, they have, I'm clearly saying it in the context of freedom of speech that is given to everybody, every citizen of this country, the freedom of free speech and expression. Every person in this country has a right to say whatever they feel like. But as we know that Article 19 is subject to reasonable restrictions also. There are reasonable restrictions which are given in the Constitution saying that don't make statements which will have an impact or an adverse impact on the law and order situation in the country. Now, here, if we were to look very closely, what we have been witnessing in the last decade is that this provision of law, which pertains to hate speech, has more often than not been abused and misused by the police to curb political dissent or possibly even curb voices which are critical, not just of the government, but also even of the judiciary. Now, here, this particular case, which has been launched or lodged by this lawyer, there are two aspects of this case. The one is that this particular statement, which was made by Mr. Badri Seshadri, amounted to promoting enmity. The second part of the case pertains to lowering the dignity of the judiciary. Now, as far as the judiciary is concerned, the cause of action can only lie if there is a contempt petition which is filed in the Supreme Court of India, because here the allegation is that Mr. Badri Seshadri, by his statements, has lowered the image of the Supreme Court of India and more so the Chief Justice of India. But for that, a contempt petition has to be filed, which has to be approved by the Attorney General of India, who says yes, that according to him, if he were to read the whole speech or
Right.
in its entirety and a case of contempt is made out, then a contempt petition is filed. The petitioner, in this case, who would be Mr. Or rather the accused in this case would be Mr. Badri Seshadri. He would be given a chance to defend himself, explain himself in what was the context, what was the entirety, and what was the tone and terror of his speech. So this is clearly one of the many cases where the state governments, the police have been misusing the provisions relating to hate speech to curb free speech in this country, not only of political commentators, but even people, or common people like you and me, journalists, academics. There have been numerous instances in the last 10 years when people of all shades, citizenry of all shades, have been booked
Right.
for putting out hate speech, not only on social media platforms, but also otherwise.
Right. And I'll come to you about Patricia Mukim because I think that's a very important case. You said that, that happened in Meghalaya. But let me come back to you. Bhaskar Hegde, I'm also reminded of, and please, we are not comparing two cases. Like I'm making it very clear, I don't understand legalese and its nuances. And also, I don't think one should do it as journalists. But, Bhaskar, I'm also reminded of several arrests that have been made under the DMK dispensation. Savaku Shankar, he is somebody who is now a journalist and someone who is a social media influencer, but earlier was working with DVAC, and apparently 3 or 4 year old case, and he was shoved into jail. He's out right now. There was a lot of uproar on that. You go to Twitter right now, ladies and gentlemen, you will see the way that Twitter has exploded. There are a lot of political implications being attributed to this case. I don't want to go into it because we still have to wait and watch. But Bhaskar, for instance, they are saying that the way Senthil Balaji, was picked up 3 hours of the morning, kicking and shouting, which led to his bypass surgery by ED officials. They said that pretty much it sounds allegedly like vendetta politics. But yes, politics apart, don't you think, like Ashok said, it seems like a very, very dangerous thing that you can be picked up by the police from your home and you have had no clue. It was, look, if you and I go to a YouTube channel and we are all broadcasters and we are speaking, we are all very careful. And you were right that he is a seasoned journalist. He runs a very, very successful boutique Tamil publishing house. So do you think that it is kind of also the larger message is we live in dangerous times?
Sudha, I think you are right. What I tried to gather from the discussion so far and what I read earlier in the day, I
Right.
can compare. One thing is there are two similar things. One is sedition cases, and the other one is hate speech.
Hmm.
The sedition case is also same because the governments are putting sedition cases against journalists, columnists, and many people. And particularly I think Ashok might be knowing very well, in Vinod Duar's case, Supreme Court was very clear that you cannot arrest journalists so easily and so commonly, and there should be a very, very proper investigation before arresting a journalist. And particularly people like Vinod. Of course, this is a different case, I know, but still, but even this hate speech also, I think even a journalist who criticizing the government or criticizing a court or court's decision, if they are expanding or reading it as a hate speech, then I think it's a bit difficult to interpret and move forward. Probably, I think someone has to approach the court, and perhaps court has to take a call whether governments can file these kind of cases or not. Because otherwise, end of the day, I think journalists are more vulnerable to face these kind of cases.
Right. And for those who've just joined us on the broadcast, let me bring you up to speed. Badri Seshadri, who lives in Chennai, is a publisher and a well-known political analyst, was picked up by the police this morning at 5 a.m. and he's been arrested under these charges. And I'm reading them out to you. IPC Section 153, provocation with intent to cause riot. 153A, 1A, which is promote enmity between groups through words. 5051B, causing fear and alarm in public. We'll have to wait and see where the case goes. Of course, and let me go to Ashok. Ashok, the thing is that this is a question which I think a lot of us have to understand, and you are somebody who understand the nuances of the legal aspects of it. Now, this Ashok is creating a bit of a problem for me, causing fear and alarm in public. I mean, is this part of hate speech? That is my question. Provocation with an intent to cause riot? I mean, maybe it's a colonial kind of a terminology. I don't know, but it sounds very, very severe. The thing is, X person, if he's influential, in the sense, if his opinion matters, and if the public, it garners support from the public, then is he or she more prone to be picked up if the police feels that, his or her opinion could cause these things that I just read about, Ashok Gandhi?
Okay, there are two things before I actually respond to your query. That number one,
Right.
as citizens of this country, you have to understand two things. First, that the Supreme Court of India and the judges of the Supreme Court of India are not sacred cows. They are not untouchables. They are not people whose actions cannot be commented on or criticized. Both the institution and the judges who man the institution can be criticized, you can have an opinion, and you can voice your opinion. But you have to be careful as to you should not cross the line where it amounts to contempt of court or you don't defame the court or the judges. So one thing out of the way that Supreme Court and judges can be criticized, you can have an opinion which does not match their views, you can have them and you can voice them. Number one. Number two, as far as free speech in this country is concerned, as I've repeatedly been pointing out, that in the last 10 years, what we have been witnessing is that there is a rising trend of cases which
Mm.
have been filed against people for hate
Yeah.
speech, left, right, and center. As I said earlier, people, activists, journalists, human right workers, everybody has been booked for
Cartoonists.
hate speech. Cartoonists, they have been booked
Yeah.
for hate speech.
Yeah.
Now,
Right.
it's the problem here is that it's easy to file an FIR, but as I very repeatedly say, that in criminal law, the process itself is the punishment. The offense on the face of it is not a very grave offense. 153A, the maximum punishment is 3 years. 505, again, the punishment is 3 years. But the only thing is that it's a non bailable offense. 153 read on its own is a bailable offense with 6 months imprisonment. But 153A and 505 are the problem uh, areas which are non-bailable. Now let's non-bailable offense. Now let me at this stage bring in this Patricia Mukim case. Now what
Yes.
happened in 2019? Patricia Mukim, who was the editor of Shillong Times, wrote a Facebook post uh, about an incident where some Bengali boys were attacked by the tribals of Meghalaya, and she put out a post condemning or criticizing the attack on the non-tribals by the tribals who are the native residents of Meghalaya, and she asked that the chief minister and the police of that state should act against the tribal boys who attacked the Bengali boys. Now, this particular Facebook post was picked up by the Meghalaya police, and a case of 153A of promoting hate or enmity between two groups
Right.
was filed against her. Finally, when she had to go through the rigors of law, first she had to go to the sessions court, then to the high court to get the FIR quashed against her. And finally, when the matter came to the Supreme Court rightly took a view that look, there has to be a balance which has to be maintained between the
Okay.
freedom of speech and the offenses for which you can book these people. And here, they said that if you look at the Facebook post, which was put out by Patricia Mukim, it was visible to everybody that her attempt by writing that Facebook post was to generate awareness about the situation and comment on the situation as it was playing out on the ground. And she was exhorting the chief minister and the police in the state to take action against the people who had attacked these non tribals or the Bengali students who were playing basketball. And the court also went on to say that these are such instances which actually cut into your freedom of speech. And these FIRs are basically uh, an outcome of the fertile imagination of very sensitive people. And this tendency must be curbed. Now, here also, in Sheshadri's case, also, what I see is that the in this issue. Here is a person who made public his opinion, or he openly, publicly broadcast his opinion on the situation in Manipur. Manipur, for the last more than 2 months, has been embroiled in
Yes.
very violent ethnic conflict. This is the whole world knows that. The government has not spoken about it except for few voices condemning the violence in the state. The prime minister of the country has not spoken about it. There have been opposition demands for last 1 week. The parliament has been stalled. Opposition leaders are demanding some statement
Right.
from the prime minister. But what is interesting here, what I find it very ironical here, is that the Bharatiya Janata Party Tamil Nadu unit has come out in support of Sheshadri,
Yes.
and they have
Yes.
condemned the action by the Tamil Nadu police. So clearly, this is politics at play. And if you were to see the track record of BJP state governments in the last 10 years, you will figure out that in Uttar Pradesh, in Rajasthan, in Madhya Pradesh, in Maharashtra, there have been so many numbers of such FIRs which have been filed on the grounds of promoting hate speech, frivolous FIRs for a Facebook comment, for a tweet,
Right.
uh, and things like that, or social media posts. So it's pretty ironical on the part of the BJP to stand by Sheshadri and say that the Tamil Nadu police has done is wrong. But clearly, the Tamil Nadu police has gone overboard on this one.
Right. Bhaskar, what Ashok said, and I'm going to ask you. The thing is that, again, it's been attributed that Badri Seshadri was somebody who supported the BJP. I mean, I do not know. I cannot vouch for it, but however, that's what all the internet pieces are saying. You never know. I mean, you have to ask the person, are you a supporter or not? But apparently he was. My question is, I am a regular consumer of all Tamil digital content. I consume it and I see that a lot of preposterous things bordering on offensive comments about community, particularly about gender, is made. But what really surprises me is that the swiftness with which the police swooped down and picked up Badri Seshadri. Now, also no coincidence that he's a publisher, he was a writer, he's actually what we can call a journalist turned publisher. So he's from an allied field. Do you think, Bhaskar Hegde, that over a couple of years, particularly under this dispensation, the sweeping down on journalists and writers has increased manifold than it was before?
So absolutely, if you see the, of course, right now I can't recall the number, in various, particularly southern states and northern states in particular, but it has certainly increased manifold. And as Ashok mentioned, and the governments in rule and police in particular, who are basically misused or abused by the ruling parties, so they are at play to file these kind of cases against YouTubers, journalists, and many people, even the common man who use basically social media platform to file this kind of cases. I think it looks like they want to send a message to all the supporters of one particular group or his Sheshadri supporters or his readers that he is, the government wanted to send a message. I think that's why they use these particular sections to arrest him. We are not sure whether government or the party in power in Tamil Nadu had any kind of issue with him in the past.
Right.
If that were to be the case, I think they use this as an opportunity to file a case in this particular case and use that opportunity to arrest him.
And after all, Tamil Nadu has had, I think, not the unique, but rather famous reputation of picking up even a chief minister in the wee hours of the morning. You must all remember, Karunanidhi being picked up. In the recent past, we've seen Senthil Balaji, but of course, that was not the police, that was ED. Several other cases where you're dragged from your home to the police station as if, the police, it's been alleged that they become an authority unto themselves. So we'll have to wait and see what happens with Badri Seshadri. Of course, there are lots of WhatsApp forwards which we do not cater to. That's their personal opinion. But yes, this is something which is not going to go away, and this will keep rumbling over the weekend. But on Monday, of course, we shall keep a very, very close eye on what transpires with Badri Seshadri. As of now, I shall say goodbye to both my colleagues. Ashok Paglia, thanks so much. And also Bhaskar Hegde, thank you very much. That's
Thank
all in
you.
this broadcast and our focus on Tamil Nadu. But of course, for all the news and analysis, your destination is News 9 Live. Thank you for watching. Nandri.